Hello. We are here to connect Thursday night, 7 o'clock. And so we're here to connect. We're here to chat. We're here to pray. And we're just going to give some time while we chat for people to jump on, throw on prayer requests or whatever it is that you want to throw in the comments. Let us know that you're here, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to get this fired up here so I can see the comments.
We'll just give it a few seconds, but yeah, we're just waiting for anybody who's maybe cleaning up dinner, or even on every night at 7, people go out to give our nurses and our doctors and our all those in the healthcare field, to give everyone a shout. So I'm sure many of you are doing that. Hopefully you are, because I know what an encouragement it's been for everyone to hear that, and I know it's just been really beneficial for those who are working right now. So it's really great being able to do that. We've got our kids tucked away. Hopefully they stay tucked away. They're supposed to be watching a TV in the other room. So hopefully they stay in there. Well, one's coming on. That's okay. If you're there, let us know. Give us a hello. And yeah.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find the feed here to make sure it's all working properly.
Yeah. We can actually be heard. No, my computer's been having some difficulties with the mic, so.
I'm just trying to find it. Yeah,
but all you can hear is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're out there, let us know. Give us a shout. If you have prayer needs, please let us know that as well. We want to be praying for you tonight as well.
Yeah, let us know how your week's been. What's changed? What's new? What's shaken down in your lives? I know there's a few people that are being laid off that I know of, and we don't know how that's gonna shake out.
Yeah. Yep. Jeff's still working, and I'm home with the kids working out homeschooling, which is challenging, trying to keep up with all that, especially when it comes to math with my older child who's in grade 7. I'm finding it very, very hard to keep up with his math, and I've been leaving a lot of his math to Jeff because he finds math a lot easier than I do. So that's been challenging. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's out there yet. Okay.
Yeah. You wanted to share some things?
Yeah, I just wanted to share a little bit tonight on grief, sort of where I've been at lately during this time. I've been noticing just I'm a lot more emotional. Maybe even my kids are too. And it's just kind of like, what is going on? And what I've come to realize is it's actually a phase of grieving right now. So I don't know about you guys, but I thought that this would all be over by now, that we'd be able to return to our lives and things would get back to normal. But actually what I'm realizing, what I'm having to face up to in the past few days, is that things are never going to be normal again. And this thing, it's like I was kind of in this waiting or this holding pattern where I'm like, okay, I just got to get through this next day. And then this is going to be over soon. It's going to be over soon. Everything's going to be back to normal. But in this past few days, I've had to face the facts that it's probably, things are never going to be back the way they were. I'm not saying that this is going to last forever, this virus or this isolation, but life is not ever going to be what it was. And so I'm finding that I'm having to grieve that, to grieve that loss of what was, and maybe some hopes or expectations that I had that may not look the way that I've wanted it to, or that I planned for it to. And so just dealing with that grief and realizing what it is, and actually naming it, saying, okay, this is what it is. I'm feeling this loss of, my own time during the day. My kids are with me every day, all day. So I've lost a big portion of that, of my time. I've lost community. And what are some other losses that we've been dealing with?
Hugs.
Hugging people. My parents, I'm not able to go visit my parents like I normally would. And if my kids weren't in school, and
Yeah, typically if we had time off, Megan would she just load the kids up and go to her parents, and they'd run wild on their property in Asturias, and they'd all just have a big blast. But
yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, and just being able to be like, you know what, this is naming it for what it is, and so that I can then walk through those emotions in a healthy way with God. We just listened to this really amazing podcast. I don't know if you know that Brene Brown has a podcast right now. I think it's called Unlocking Us.
Hi, Sue. Hi, Katie.
Oh, hey guys.
It's James and Nita. I seen popped on there as well.
Awesome. So we listened to this podcast called Unlocking Us, and Brene Brown interviewed a grief expert, and his name was David Kessler. And he was talking about, the stages of grief that we walk through, and how what's happening in the world right now is that you can sense the grief that people are just, holding on, waiting for this to be over, waiting for things to get back to normal. But now it's settling in that things aren't going to get back to normal. So what you're sensing right now in the world is grief and lament.
What you're feeling,
what you're
seeing, and it's been hard to put a name and kind of go, oh, what is that? It's been hard to put a name to that, but I think that really brought some clarity to it.
Yeah, and it helps us to even normalize what we're going through too, and say, oh, okay, that is what's happening. Like, I'm not an anomaly. There's nothing wrong with me. It's just I'm grieving right now. And so he talked about the stages of grief, and the 5 stages are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And when I look at those, I'm like, oh man, I've definitely been through some of those things. And he said they're not linear. You can go through it at any point in time.
Mm-hmm.
You can go from anger to depression, back to anger again, or back to denial. Like, it's
there's no timeline on.
There's no timeline
on that. It's not work through this one for a month, the next one for a month, and then all of a sudden you're out through the other end of it. It's a longer process and different process for everyone. There's no.
And so just recognize, oh man, I've definitely been depressed at times. I've been angry at times. I've definitely been in denial over this, and now getting to the point where it's just accepting it. But then he said there's another stage that we get to, which is called finding the meaning in it, or the purpose of it. So, once you get past the initial pain of it all, and you're able to accept it and go through those emotions properly, then comes the part where you get to apply the meaning, like what came out of that. Not that we wanted it to happen or anything like that, but what was the result? Like, what did God do in our hearts through that? And what kind of meaning can we find in all of this loss? So I would really encourage you to go and listen to that podcast. It is so, so good. And not just for this time, for anybody who's been through a loss or had to grieve something, it really helps.
I'm gonna tag it here in the comments.
Yeah. It really helps to just bring some context to the situation, but also for anybody who's had to go through any sort of loss. Just a lot of amazing helpful things. What did he say about the spoons in there?
Podcast? Well, the spoons it was this picture of in the times we're in, but he kind of paralleled it with like a picture of heaven or hell or whatnot. But there was these really long spoons, and he saw this room where everybody was in this room with these long spoons, and they were so long that you couldn't feed yourself with it. So they all were scooping up food, but they couldn't feed themselves because the spoon was so long, and all these people were just down and like sad, and they were skinny and frail, and none of them had eaten anything. And then there was another room that he went into, and everyone was filled with joy, and everyone was filled up, everyone was full, and they were using these long spoons, and instead of trying to feed themselves with it, they were feeding each other. And that was just a picture of, like, we need to help each other. If it's trying to be just me in this inward, it's just me through this time and trying to help. And how does that look for this time? It's, people connecting with their neighbors right now. that they haven't before, checking in with people to see if they need help. How can we help, financially, with groceries, with running around, with errands, or whatever it is, kind of thing. Is the long spoon feeding someone else rather than just trying to feed yourself, because it sometimes is impossible to do that. So yeah, that's a pretty
I
cool
think that's
picture.
a really cool way to
Yeah.
even to bring meaning to all this, where it does, even though we're isolated, it can somehow bring us closer together in the end, through all that. And so through that, when we face grief, I think that right now, even though we're stuck at home, we can still distract ourselves. Like we can still keep ourselves busy with yard work or cleaning the house, or all these things that they're not bad things, but sometimes we just need to get still and face our emotions and be like, okay, what is happening in me?
Yeah.
What is going on inside my heart, where there's maybe some stuff here that I need to face, some loss that I need to grieve with God through this, and that we don't need to compare our pain right now. We don't need to play the comparison game where it's like, oh, someone over there is suffering much more than I am, so I'm just not, my grief doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It does. It matters to God, even the littlest thing. Like some people, go to A&W with their friends once a week for coffee. They can't do that anymore. Well, you have to grieve that.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to allow yourself to feel that and face those things, so that God can enter into our pain and our loss, and it brings us closer to God. It brings us, it makes us more in touch with our God-given emotions.
Yeah.
And these are all good things that we can be doing right now.
Yeah, we don't want to stuff it, right? Where the comparison thing is, we compare to other scenarios around us. Well, I'm just grateful that I have a job, or we try to find the good things, and that is a good positive thing to do, as long as we're not ignoring the places where we're feeling something inside that doesn't feel right. It's okay to acknowledge that. It's okay to give a name to that and call it out. It won't become bigger in your life when you give something a name. When you call grief out, or you call pain out, or you call shame out, or you call these things, we always think they're going to get bigger when we call it out. It doesn't. It's the opposite of that. And when we stuff things down, that's when things grow. That's when things get worse and have to be dealt with. Everything is going to have to be processed at one point in our lives, whether it's now or it's 20 years from now. Everything we need to process. And so anything that we stuff down, it will come up, and hopefully not all at once. Because I think that I've been a stuffer for a long time in my life. I'm a professional at going, I don't want to feel that. I'll find something to keep me busy. I'll bury myself in some work, and I'll just avoid the pain, or avoid acknowledging that. But there's so much freedom when we can just acknowledge stuff for what it is and go, you know what, I miss that. I miss being connected to people. I miss hugging people. I miss sitting and talking with people. I miss being able to go for coffee with somebody and sit down at a restaurant. All of those things we miss. And it's okay to let yourself feel that. And in that, and I'm not sure where you're going. Are you going somewhere next with that? I was just going to say, in that, then we go, okay, because once we've dealt with something, we're equipped to now deal with something. And we can start to deal with the way life is right now. Like Megan and the kids are home all the time. So if it's just hang on for dear life, hang on until this is going to pass, hang on for that. That's adrenaline mode the whole time.
Right.
And you're just like, oh, and you're just hanging on, right? And you don't want to stay in adrenaline mode for that long. We're not meant to. Our bodies are meant to react for a season, react for a time. We go into survival mode, but we cannot exist in survival mode. We will crash in that place. So we acknowledge what's happening. We acknowledge that for us in our place, it's the kids are home. They can't go to the pool. They can't go to the park. Megan's having to learn how to homeschool our kids at this time. We're trying to figure out, is it too much Xbox? Is it too much TV? Is it too much, all this stuff right now. And there's no real place for us to find at this point. And so we're just hanging on. Well, we're just thinking, this is going to pass. Maybe it will. Maybe it will in 2 weeks. Maybe it will in a month. But we can't remain in survival mode through that. What we need to do is we need to grieve the things we need to grieve so that we can pivot and we can adjust. Now we adjust our lifestyle. Now we adjust our schedule. Now we adjust. What does this life this next season going to look like? Even if things go back to the way they were in 3 months from now, in 2 months from now, or 1 month from now, the only way we're going to get through the next month is for us to call it out, the grief, the loss, and say, okay, feel that. Now we're fresh and we're ready to think, how can I adjust? What can I do differently? What's going to be sustainable through this as far as our health, as far as our emotional, as far as our spiritual health, as far as all of those types of things, our physical health. What do we need to do differently that we couldn't do in the last season? We need to be creative in that, but we really need to lean into that, because otherwise we're going to stay really stuck. And we don't want to stay stuck. We want to stay ready to go. And I don't think that this is just going to be something that just goes, and all of a sudden it goes, everybody just goes right back to normal. If anything goes back to the way it was, it's going to be a slow progression. So we're just going, okay, this is kind of a week for us where we're feeling it. We're allowing ourselves to feel the grief, address the things that we are letting go right now. Letting go possible camping trips this summer. Letting go trips to Suez and being on the boat with Megan's parents on the lake. Letting go of a lot of those things and going, okay, I don't like that.
Yeah.
I take that to God. I take it to prayer.
Yeah.
I lift it up. Okay, what's it going to look like then? Because we're not just going to sit in our living room and hang on for the next few months. We're going to live life. We're going to have fun. We're going to make this the best that we can.
But in a new way, right? And,
it's going to be a new way.
And out of all that comes a new way of doing things. God gives us new ideas and new perspectives and a new normal, a new way of doing things. And those things are good. They're good. And I believe that is what God is doing this time too, is kind of shifting us and our old ways of doing things and giving us new ways of doing things that are going to be really good for us. So it's important to go through the process of grieving and, facing the loss, grieving it, going to God with it, lamenting, crying out, and asking God to come into those places and then to bring meaning to it and help us to, develop a new way of doing things, a new normal. And I think in the end, we're going to look back and like, wow, remember when we used to do things that way? Isn't that crazy? Like now look at this, we're going to look back and like, that was it's so cool what God brought through that time.
Yeah.
So we encourage you to go back and listen to that podcast.
Yeah. Throw your comments up. What are some of the things that you're grieving right now? Like I heard it in that podcast. He said, like the handshake might not come back. He's like, you don't know how people are going to be. If this goes on for a while, you don't know what kind of things are going to come back. And he's like, I could grieve that if the handshake didn't come back. Everything's people are getting new systems. So what is it that you're grieving right now, or that you should be grieving? You were like, oh, I didn't think about that. Maybe I should. Go ahead and throw some of those up in your comments. I'd love to hear what some of those things are, and we can grieve that together. Because you might be able to say something and I go, oh yeah, right. Yeah, I need to grieve that. Yeah. But we're going to go into a new and exciting normal. Yeah. We're not going to be. This house ain't going to be stuck. We're not going to be stuck hanging on for dear life, just hoping. And in 3 months from now, my beard is down to here, and cool. Megan, and you know what I mean. We're just totally falling apart, crawling off of our porch, asking someone to save us. We're going to have life in this house. We're going to have prayer. We're going to worship. We're going to have, we're going to do the very best that we can in the circumstances that we have, to live life to the fullest that we can, and encountering God through it all. Yeah.
And, just giving into the grief or admitting that you have to grieve, or admitting that this is hard and that you're suffering to some extent in some way. Admitting to grief does not mean that you lose hope. It's a way to actually gain new hope and new understanding, that when we say, oh, you know what, I give in, this is just the way it is, and now I have to, grieve that. I mean, that's not how it is. It's like, okay, it's just facing what is and asking God to give us a new hope. It's not giving up on hope. It's not giving up on, God coming and coming to our rescue, because he is coming. He is coming, and it just may not look the way we thought it was, or maybe it's not as instantaneous as we thought it was. But God can still inject hope into us through our grieving. I actually think from my experience, grieving gives me hope. It's my way of entering into hope. It's just where do you take your grief to? Taking it to God, He will exchange that for hope, right?
Oh yeah. I think that's exactly how it happens. Just like you just said there, when you grieve and you take that to God, God does an exchange with hope. Takes that grief and is an exchange for hope. I like that. Yeah, for sure.
So I wanted to read a psalm to you. We had that podcast that we hope you listen to. Vern sent me another podcast yesterday that's so good along the same lines. This podcast is a little acceptance.
Sorry, acceptance. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's huge. Acceptance is huge.
Yeah, totally. This other podcast, they inject the gospel into it, which is really good. So I'll try and get it up there. It's Restoring the Soul podcast, episode 122. And he talks about love and lament during the pandemic. Love and lament. And he talks about lamenting during this time, keeping a lament journal at the end of the day, 3 things that you're thankful for and 3 things that you need to lament over and that you need to grieve. And he talks about, this idea that God is coming. He's our rescuer, and don't lose hope. He's coming. He's our rescuer. And it's really, really good. So I encourage you to listen to that one too, if you have time. I know it's hard to find time, but sometimes I have had trouble sleeping at night lately, so I'm just throwing a podcast while I'm laying in bed. But
yeah, I wake up in the middle of the night and all I hear is like this voice talking.
Jesus,
on the
pillow. Is that
you? This voice talking on the pillow. So I'm like getting like a super download of wisdom while Megan can't sleep at night because I think while I'm sleeping I can still hear it, and it must be absorbing
it's
it
like
too.
getting into your spirit or something.
Yeah, it's in my subconscious.
Yeah. Katie's saying, I'm trying to find it as a physical shift and a supernatural shift. Finding more time for the Lord to show me stuff that needed to be dusted off when I was too busy. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, there's some dusting going on over here too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Things are getting dusted off.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's good. It's hard, but it's good. It's hard, but it's good. I heard this thing today. This is hard for us because it's hard, not because you're weak or because something is wrong with you or because you're not doing it right. It's hard because it's just hard. And that's okay if this is a hard thing for you to be going through.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to read Psalm 27. I feel like it's just a little bit of hope that we all need. It's a Psalm of David, and he's talking about his enemies and how, many times in David's life he was threatened by the enemy. His life was being threatened, and he would lament to God and just start singing and praying to the Lord. So this is Psalm 27. I just highlighted a few verses. He says, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked advance against me to devour me, it is my enemies and my foes who will stumble and fall. Though an army besiege me, my heart will not fear. Though war break out against me, even then I will be confident. One thing I ask from the Lord, this only do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze on the beauty of the Lord and to seek him in his temple. For in the day of trouble, he will keep me safe in his dwelling. He will hide me in the shelter of his sacred tent and set me high upon a rock." I love this. David's talking about, even though the enemy comes against me, even though it seems like just all this chaos around me and all these things are going wrong, and it just seems like there's war all around me and all these horrible things happening. He says, yet I will seek the Lord. And he says that he will dwell with him, that the Lord will hide him, bring him into his tent. Like God brings us into his presence, into the secret place with him when all this crazy stuff is going around. And then David ends the psalm by saying, I remain confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord, be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. I love that hope that I will see. I'm confident of this, that we're not stuck. We will see the goodness of the Lord here in the land of the living, that his kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. We will see that. And he says, be strong, take heart, wait for the Lord, take heart, for the Lord is coming. There is hope even when we grieve this idea of, God is coming. He's not forsaken us. He's not left us.
Yeah.
He will be glorified. He takes us into his presence even when we're surrounded by bad news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a couple of years ago. I saw up in the four corners of Chilliwack on the mountains, I saw an angel standing on each one. Kind of there's like four different mountains. I don't know what they're all called, but it's like almost like there's one back here over by Harrison, and there's like Mount Chiem that's here. There's like I think Mount Vetter Mountain that's over here, and then I don't know, Chilliwack Mountain. Maybe I've named them all right. Maybe I haven't. I totally botched that. But there's four mountains. And I saw four angels standing on them, and they were standing with swords, and they had the swords down in the ground like this, and they were just watching. And it was about maybe three or 4 months ago. We were sitting in the office praying, and I saw the same picture again, but the angels now didn't have the swords like this, but the four angels were still on the four mountains, but the swords were now up and poised and ready, and I truly believe that there's warfare that's going on in the spirit right now as well, but there is something really special that is coming for this community, for the community of Chilliwack, for the people of Chilliwack. We've been praying for Chilliwack for a long time, and like just things that we couldn't even wrap our minds around seeing happening, where lives were restored. And so I just thought of that again. It just came back to me when you were sharing that scripture of these angels that are now poised to begin cleaning out the things. Now, I don't know how that relates to everything that's going on right now. I'll spend some more time praying in that. That just came back now, but I think it's encouraging. It's encouraging to me to know that there was a watch, but now there's a preparation, and there was that word that was released, over the church that was given to us of prepare. Prepare for war, prepare for advance, and prepare for increase. And I think it ties into that word as well. So I'm really encouraged. I'm really excited to see what is going to be released in the spirit over Chilliwack. The restoration that's coming for this city. I know that it's coming, and I think that it's going to be so far beyond what we could even wrap our minds around. Thinking and seeing like these entire nations that come and repent, where governments repent before God for the ways that they turned away from them, and complete cities are transformed and restored, and relationships and families are restored. So
the glory of the Lord fills the earth. That one
just sprinkles, just sprinkles through. God's presence just sprinkles through, and that is my prayer for tonight. Whether you like it or not, I'm praying for you to experience the presence of God.
Yeah.
That God's presence. It is about God's presence. It is about an encounter, experiencing His presence, doing life with God, in every breath, and every step, and every thought. And I don't do that perfectly. I can just be honest with you. But when I'm reminded of it, I remember. I go, God, bring me back to that place where it's all about you. Every moment is about you. And help me to understand how to walk out life, how to walk out my job, how to walk out, breaking up a fight between my kids, and bringing the glory of God into that moment. I don't know how to do all of that, but if it's on our minds and we're asking God to be in those moments with us, and when we remember, we go, oh God, yeah, right. You're going to be in this moment with me. God doesn't go, hey, no, you forgot about me for 3 days. You were trying to do it on your own again. So now it's going to take you at least 3 days before you can come back into my presence. God is just like right there, right there, right now, right back, right in the moment with you.
Yeah.
And, you know, we just invite him back in. Oh man, help me to remember so that everything that we do. And as we do that, God's presence begins to fill the spaces around us and fill our families. And it, you know, Megan does that, encourages me. I do that, encourages me. Our kids all of a sudden are encouraged. The people that they hang out with are encouraged. Our neighbors, you know, it spills out, right? So it's God's presence. Invite God's presence into your home.
That's what we're praying for.
That's my prayer for you, is that you experience God's presence.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, all I want right now is just the presence of God.
Changes everything.
In the midst of this.
Yeah.
And honestly, we're not sitting here saying we experience God's presence every minute of every day. Like, I know I don't, but I want to. And I seek that. Like David says, one thing I know, I will seek the Lord, that I seek him, and I'm, you know, I'm praying for that, and I'm pursuing that. And that's our prayer, and that's our prayer for you too, and for this city and for this earth, that we would know his presence. His presence is everything.
Yeah,
it's everything.
Yeah, I know. I had a friend that had never gone on a trip somewhere like to Mexico or to Maui or anything like that. He never was like, he's like, nah, it's no big deal. It was never anything that he really cared about or wanted to go and do. And I hadn't really been on too many, but after I had gone and I'd tasted and seen how good Maui was, how good the beach was, how good the warm water was, the beautiful fish, the smell of the air, and the rest that I found in those places. Once I had tasted and seen, it's always on my mind. I want to go back.
Right.
It's That's always good. On my mind. I want to go back. Once you've tasted and seen the goodness of God,
right.
I can't go back. I can't forget it. It's too good. It's too good because it surpasses everything else in my life that I've ever encountered or experienced is God's goodness. And I've tasted that. And there's just no going back from that. You can't, I crave God's presence.
Yeah. So we're going to pray for that. And if you have your own prayer needs, please put them in the comments. We want to pray for you. If any of this stuff struck a chord tonight, even about grieving or, so let's pray.
Yeah. You starting or am I starting?
Let's start. Jesus, we thank you that your presence is with us, that you are present with us in this moment. That every moment of our lives you are present. And God, we're crying out that you would open our eyes and our hearts and all our senses up to just being so aware of your presence. Just knowing how close you are to us. Lord, that we would seek you, that we would be still enough to be with you. And Lord, I just pray for your presence to pour down on each of our homes, even tonight, even now, God, that the glory of your goodness would fill our homes. Holy Spirit, we ask that you come. We ask that you come, Holy Spirit. You are everything. You're all we need, and so we're asking for you, Lord.
Yeah. I just keep hearing that song, it's Jonah that's singing it in my mind right now, that let it rain, open the floodgates of heaven.
Yeah.
And I pray for that over you, over your house, over your family, that it would rain, that the floodgates of heaven would open up, and that joy and hope and peace would blanket your homes, would blanket your souls, would blanket everyone around you, and that God's presence would fill up your houses. Father, I ask that you give your angels charge over this city, over this country, over this nation, over this world. Give your angels charge over that. Let it rain. Open up the floodgates of heaven in our homes, Father. Bless those. Bless everyone. Bless everyone who sees this, Father. Open it up. Bless those who don't see this. Open up your floodgates.
Lord, I ask that you would help each one of us grieve where we need to grieve and to face up to those emotions and not bury them, but to come to you with each emotion that we have, the good and especially the bad emotions, coming to you and just pouring our hearts out to you, grieving and allowing you to enter into those places so that you can comfort us and bring us new hope. And Lord, I pray that you would keep us confident of this, that we would see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living, that we would remain strong and confident that you are going to see us through this, that that this isn't going to last forever, and that it is going to be okay. We're going to be okay. And to keep that confidence in you, Lord, and to even see your goodness every day, even as we're still in this season, to see your goodness every day, to acknowledge it and to call it out so that your glory can come. Because you are so good, Father. Yeah.
Amen.
Well,
No prayer requests.
no prayer requests.
It's all good.
We love you guys very much. Even if you're on here and we don't know you super well, we still love you. And we just bless you and praying for you. Prayers for strength and leaning into him. Yeah, somebody had said, was that last night that somebody had said that? Something about that very thing, like worship, being able to worship together.
Oh yeah.
Like that is so missed. That's such a huge part of who we are, right? As followers of Christ, is that we get to come together and worship him in unity. And that is a huge thing, Yvonne. So yeah.
Yep, for sure.
Prayer that we can even worship just in our homes.
Yeah.
This time, but yeah, that's good.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, we're gonna go tend to our kids. We're gonna go break up any fights that have broken out.
No, they're good. They're good. They don't fight constantly.
Go
Just
clean.
intermittently.
Just intermediate. They're actually doing. I think that they're building a big thing of unity right now too.
Yeah.
They for the most part, my goodness, they're around each other all the time.
Yeah.
They get along.
They've been doing pretty good.
They're doing pretty good.
Not as they're doing pretty good.
Yeah, I get this. So now it's me talking, right? That's Megan. That. So I'm talking about. I come in the evenings and share, my experience when I come home.
Well, yeah, and ask me that now when they actually aren't fighting. If you call me tomorrow at like 2 p.m., I might have a different story. But anyway, it's all good.
Yeah, it's all good.
We love you guys, and tune in tomorrow for Friday updates. And
yeah, right. Tomorrow's Friday.
Let us know if you have any prayer needs. Even you can shoot us an email or message us on Facebook. All those things. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we'll see you guys.
Love you guys.
Later.
Thanks for hanging out with us for a bit.
Yeah.
See you later.
Bye.